Previously on The Forbidden Game.
Here she is in all her beauty. The Forbidden Game trilogy by L.J. Smith. Like any normal human being, Mr. Man starts spouting some weird stuff. Her back is to him and he's like, danger, seduction, fear. Ginny caves in and buys the box. Now the gang's all here. Ginny the practical, Dee the bold, Audrey the sassy, Michael the goofy, Zach the loner, Summer the sweet, and Tom the... Tom. Everyone brushes her concerns off and her friends open the box to start playing the game. Oh yeah, and suddenly there's a giant tornado-like vortex of wind that sweeps the party up and knocks them all out. They realize they've been transported into the house and now they're the paper dolls. Turns out Shadow Man has a name and he tells them it's Julian. Ginny and Dee get abducted by aliens and put on probing tables. Inside the cave, the girls come face to face with a cult of strange dark elf men. So while they're debating all this, they start turning into trees. The room collapses around her and everyone is forced to watch her die. She verbally says, Zachary, this is wrong. We're cousins. They hear voices from the entities in the closet, and that's where the portal to their world is. But instead of a city street outside, the crew catches a glimpse of a giant werewolf and giant snake. Julian puts the ring on Ginny, and her friends are like, "Nor, Ginny!" So Ginny starts off by being like, "So, you're the youngest Shadow Man." And Julian's like, "Yeah, and the nicest." And she draws the rune of constraint in the air and recites the word that she heard her grandfather recite. Then she stops. And she hears nothing. Silence. Julian is now trapped in there. She crushes the paper dollhouse, throws everything back into the box, including the wedding ring. She tapes the box back up and makes a mental note to destroy it. Just then, the sound of glass breaking in the living room. What? Everyone rushes out and sees two dark figures stealing the white game box and leaping through the back door.
Welcome back to my video analysis of The Forbidden Game. That's actually less of an analysis and more of a dramatic retelling, occasionally interrupted with my personal observations and opinions. Hopefully you watched the first video I made about the first book in the series, but if you haven't, here's a helpful summary. Jenny is a high school girl with like 6 whole friends. She has a comfortable routine, comfortable life, and comfortable relationship with her boyfriend Tom. One day she's planning a party, finds a magical game store, sees a hot-ass dude, and buys a cursed game. Her and her friends open said game and get sucked into a shadowy world where the hot-ass dude, Julian, reveals himself to be a magical, evil, icy, shadowy prince who's obsessed with Jenny and wants to trap her there forever. Jenny and her friends have to face their nightmares in the shadow realm, all while Jenny and Julian go back and forth about their feelings. Also, Ginny makes out with her cousin. If that confuses you, go watch the first video. Anyway, Ginny defeats Julian by using magical runes to lock him into a closet forever. Then they Blue's Clues their way out of the house using a portal. Oh shoot, I forgot. Also one of Jenny's friends literally dies. So yeah, honestly, you didn't miss much. This video covers the second book of the Forbidden Game trilogy called The Chase. I think we're approaching territory that I'm unfamiliar with because I really only remember the magical house from the Forbidden Game 1 and not much else. Like last time, I will be using dress-up game puppets to illustrate the story so as to better serve you the striking visuals that this novel describes. Okay, let's begin. We start the story with the stranger, Gordy, and he's out in the woods hunting. This is a very like Twilight or Supernatural moment. You know how there's like a small snippet of a scene at the beginning of a movie or a TV show where they show like a random person who you have no emotional attachment to, who you pretty much know is going to be killed immediately, and then rock music plays and the scene transitions to the main character. Yeah, those are the vibes I get from Gordy. So Gordy's hunting a rabbit and he's kind of giving like sadism. Like he's very excited to be on his little solo hunting trip. He's a bit obsessed with hunting. It says, every night in bed, Gordy thinks about the best hunts, the best kills. Gordy needs to be put on a list. He sees a rabbit, starts chasing it to try to kill it, but he loses the rabbit and suddenly starts feeling like he's being watched, like he's being hunted, chased even. He turns and he sees something. And then suddenly, Gordy is no more. Nobody cried. I honestly think Gordy was about 2 years away from getting a certificate from Serial Killer Academy. I will say, I think LJ's writing style improved a bit because there are really interesting descriptions of Gordy's rifle barking as he tries to hunt the rabbit. To me, it's a pretty interesting use of language, and I think it's kind of cool. Okay, we're switching scenes now. Ginny is brushing her hair in the school bathroom, as girls do at school, and then a crying girl with black hair comes up behind Ginny and tells her that Ginny and her friends shouldn't have blamed Summer's death on the 2 boys who had broken into Ginny's living room that night. Okay, wait. All right, let's rewind a little bit. As we know, Ginny's friend Summer died in the last book because she couldn't overcome her nightmare. And we all know if you die in the Forbidden Game, you die in real life. So when Ginny and co came to after defeating Julian, Summer was gone, and now the entire city is talking about her disappearance. To save their own asses, Ginny and her friends decide to lie to the police and tell them that Summer's disappearance is probably linked to those 2 shady guys who broke into Ginny's house and stole her box containing the Forbidden Game. Now it's revealed that those guys are also currently missing. So to the regular townsfolk, we got 3 disappearances of teens on our hands. But to Ginny and her friends, we got 3 cases of death by haunted game. Also, we learned that the names of the boys are, Slug, Slug and PC. Slug and PC are the names of these real boys. These are real names for boys that are thugs. Ginny turns to confront Bathroom Girl and realizes that she doesn't even go here. The girl keeps telling Ginny that she's a prep and all her friends are preppy and privileged. Am I reading My Immortal? Is this Miss Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven Way? The girl says that she's a close friend to PC, you know, one of the guys who has a real name. And so she threatens to get to the bottom of what Ginny and her friends did to the 3 missing teenagers because she's convinced that Ginny and co were up to something nefarious. Ginny nearly breaks this girl's arm and tries to intimidate her into silence, and so the girl just kicks her and runs away. I am shocked. Ginny is walking to class all bummed about how a girl is gonna unearth her lies and ruin her life, yada yada yada. Suddenly a payphone rings next to Ginny. Why do they have payphones in their high school? Ginny answers the phone and all she can hear is a male voice whispering gibberish. Ginny, panicking about the girl in the bathroom, goes to round up her homies. She gets Audrey, then they get Dee, who they find in the girls' locker room completely naked, snapping towels at her classmates. Also LJ, of course, as is tradition, describes Dee as a jet black panther. Then the girls find Zach, and then Michael, and no Tom. Apparently, the group's bond has weakened since Summer's death. They each keep to themselves, they don't really hang out anymore, and so this is the first time that they've really talked together as a group in a couple of weeks. Ginny thinks the girl who approached her might know PC, even though that's literally what the girl said. So this also means the girl might know where PC and Slug are, or where they hid the game box. See, Ginny and her friends are trying to cover all their bases. They have to recover the white game box. Firstly, so nobody accidentally plays the game and releases Julian, God forbid. And secondly, so nobody finds the box and starts asking them questions about these disappearances. There's a flashback to when the gang tried to tell the police what happened that night, and they actually tried telling the cops the truth. As in, they say, "Officers, we have been victims of a magical enchanted board game." And you can probably tell how that went. Apparently, while they were there in the police station, Summer's parents showed up while the gang was telling their story, and no matter how the kids try to gift wrap it, these parents are not buying it. And then Dee's grandma apparently showed up. Her name's Abba, or Abba, I don't really know the proper inflection, I'm sorry. She listens to all of their stories about Julian and the cursed board game, and then she tells them a story from her Hausa ancestors. It's a story about a hunter who stumbles across a talking skull, which tells the hunter that it's in that state because of its talking. The hunter then runs to the chief of the village and tells everybody that there's a talking skull outside. The chief tries to get the skull to talk, but it won't. So in a rage, he sends for the hunter's head to get cut off. Now the talking skull sees that the hunter is now nothing but a talking skull, and so he asked the hunter, "Oh, what happened?" And the hunter says he's in this state because of his talking. Basically, Abba is telling them that she believes them, but they all need to shut the hell up because they talking too damn much. So the kids go back to the police station, change their story, and admit that it was just a mass hallucination, officer. Oops! Easy mistake to make. Also, apparently with all the disappearances, the entire town decided to create a missing person search center filled with volunteers. Over the course of like 2 weeks, they have created a space, like an actual physical building, dedicated to finding the 3 missing kids. Of course, the Shadow Squad doesn't have the heart to tell their fellow citizens that the entire center is going to be a fruitless endeavor. So now Ginny and her friends have not only been tangled up with 3 disappearances, but they've also been active members of the Volunteer Missing Persons Search Center and have had to purposefully lead investigators in circles in order to keep everyone in the city unaware of a magical evil cursed board game. That's pretty impressive. Back to the present, they don't really know what they're going to do with the game box if they ever find it. They don't know if they're going to burn it, shred it, hide it. They're unsure. Zach points out the fact that if Slug and Slug and PC are still trapped in the Shadow Realm in the house, in the box, then destroying the game box would murder them, right? Jenny basically tells him to shut the hell up and leave, which surprises everyone, even me, because he had a good point. In the previous book, Jenny was like really soft on Zach and always wanted to protect him, but now there's animosity between all of her friends. Zach gets up and leaves, and the group ends their strategy meeting. Jenny suddenly offers to cut class with Audrey, and Audrey's like, "You've changed, Jenny. I don't even know you anymore. Cutting class is a felony." What do they expect? Y'all are traumatized. A random ass guy walks over to Jenny and Audrey. His name's Brian, and he tries to ask Jenny to senior prom, but Jenny is like, I have severe emotional trauma right now. Wait, also have a boyfriend. Oops. And then Brian's like, okay, but like, what is he though? Like, that's quite funny, isn't it? I haven't seen him around, have I? Regardless, Jenny fends him off and he just kind of sulks away. And then Audrey scolds her for being rude and not allowing this random guy to ask her out, who's not her boyfriend. Audrey's like, Jenny, that's Brian, the captain of the football team. I just want to say, in my high school, nobody cared about the captain of anything. We were all united under one common occurrence: the fights that broke out in the cafeteria every morning at 7 a.m. That was our truth. As Jenny and Audrey walk away to go to class, Tom is apparently watching them from afar, and he's too much of a coward to talk to Jenny anymore because he thinks he's lost her. He says it's been 17 days since they played the game, and he truly and utterly believes that Julian has successfully and thoroughly cucked him, even if Jenny still insists that she loves Tom. Honestly, I do think this is about 70% truth, but 30% Tom's own insecurity. But also, who wouldn't be insecure when freaking Danny Phantom comes out of nowhere to whisk your girl away? Tom is doing some soul searching and inner conversation. He thinks that he took Jenny for granted. He's gotten lazy with trying to be a good boyfriend, and now Jenny doesn't need him at all. But like, honestly, Tom, if you're convinced that 8.5 hours was enough to completely convert Jenny from a Tom stan to a Julian stan, then maybe you guys weren't as solid as you originally believed. While he's standing there in the shadow of the building, Tom thinks normal 17-year-old guy thoughts, such as, the Shadow Man has definitely stolen my girlfriend, and I'm okay with Jenny being with anybody else as long as it isn't Julian, and I can defeat a stalker if I become Jenny's stalker. So he's basically been following her around everywhere in silence to try and catch Julian in the act, because he's convinced that if Slug and PC really played the game, they most definitely have let Julian out of the closet. Jenny, Audrey, Michael, and Dee drive over to the Missing Persons Search Center together. The search center is only being used to find Summer, so the whole center is named after her because her parents put the center together, which means that nobody else in town is looking for Slug and PC except for the black-haired girl, which is kind of freaking messed up. Okay, after thinking a little bit more, I was gonna be angry about this, then I realized that yes, even though Snail and Personal Computer, Slug and PC, are still missing, once again, the entire town also thinks they are probably Summer's murderers / kidnappers, so maybe that's why nobody's putting an effort into finding them. Wait, but that still seems counterproductive. Like, you still need to find them if that's the case. Anyway, Jenny and friends are at the center for like 4 seconds before suddenly a blonde-haired woman with gold chains steps out of a Mercedes, and she's like known to be a psychic apparently. She looks at Jenny and tells her that she has a message. I'm imagining this woman to have like the crazed stare of Nicole Kidman's character from 9 Perfect Strangers, by the way. She tells Jenny that the only message she has is the word vanished, which is similar to the sound that Jenny heard the voice saying over the payphone earlier. Like, what a busy school day, am I right? The whole gang just kind of shrugs at the lady's premonitions, and they just go back to their sleuthing. Instead of using the center's maps and corkboards to try to find Slug and PC like they were before, now they're trying to pivot to find the black-haired girl who knows Slug and PC. I don't really care about this storyline. I just want more magic. Later that day, Jenny and Audrey are driving around town to ask people for clues to where the mystery girl is. So like they're going door to door for some reason. Then for no reason, Jenny's like, Audrey, do you mind just swerving over here a little bit? And before she knows it, Audrey has driven her back around to the street where Jenny found the game shop. The mural is still there, but the door is just a painted door now. It's not a real door. Audrey's like, I don't know why you want to be back here, Jenny. That's weird. And Jenny's like, you're right. Something came over me. I'm sorry. Let's leave. It's my personal headcanon that Jenny's life has taken a super not subtle change since leaving the game. I'm imagining that she's obsessed with Julian-related imagery, like she's turning her house thermostat to 50 degrees. All her school assignments are written in blue ink, and she's like, I'm fine. I'm perfectly normal. I'm just the same as I was before. So her and Audrey are out trying to find the black-haired girl all day, and ultimately it becomes nighttime, and Jenny has actually become terrified of the dark. Her and Audrey stop going door to door, and Jenny basically begs Audrey, like, we gotta yeet back into your car because, night's fallen. Jenny's super paranoid that something is following them the entire time. She keeps hearing rustling in the nearby grass, and she thinks that she sees a shadow. Her and Audrey just start sprinting to the car, which honestly, that's what friends are for. One of them just starts taking off, and you just kind of go with them. Suddenly, something jumps on Jenny. It's Tom. He knocks her down as some vague, shadowy creature leaps over the car, scratches the hood, and lands in the grass. So Audrey reaches into her car, turns the headlights on, and it's a black dog, tail wagging. It's just a good boy who was excited to make new friends. So Tom, who had been following Jenny and Audrey the entire day apparently, had freaking football tackled his girlfriend to save her from a Labrador. Also not Audrey. He just said F Audrey, huh? Tom apologizes to Jenny, and Jenny's like, well, just drive me home then if you want to make up for it. You know, she's trying to get a little one-on-one time. Tom reluctantly agrees, and so Audrey just drives away by herself. While Jenny and Tom head to his truck, Jenny gives him a fucking earful. She's like, well, you've been pretty scarce lately. I'm glad to see you're avoiding me. And then Tom's like, Jenny, I know you still think about him. I just feel it in my soul. Jenny gasps. She's like, I can't believe you even think I care about Julian. Nothing happened in the house, I swear. She's blatantly lying, and Tom knows it. He's like, I saw the way you looked at each other. And to be fair, Tom, if that's what got you down, that like, I'm glad you didn't see the little lip locking on the love seat in her grandpa's basement when she and Julian were newlyweds, because Jenny seemed to be playing that part a little too well, if you ask me. Tom's pressing her like, you sure you don't feel anything at all for him? This is your last chance to answer. And Jenny's thinking to herself, this is a perfect time to continue to lie. So Tom tells Jenny that he can't compete with Julian, and she doesn't need him anymore. Jenny cries because she tells him that she does need him, but he's never there for her. So anyway, this successfully guilt trips Tom into like hugging her, and they're about to kiss when suddenly the car radio comes on, and it's an old song, but like the one line that plays is something like, the darkness worships the light, and Jenny's like, oh shit, Julian? And it's so vague, but still Jenny's like, that shit is what Julian would have said to me. Jenny punches the radio to turn it off, and she's trying to save face by pretending that the song lyrics didn't just send an entire shockwave through her atoms, but the whole moment is ruined, and Tom's like, yeah, you're fucking lying. Now Tom is the one that's telling Jenny that she's changed, and Jenny's had it, so she says, everyone tells me I've changed, and if you don't like me anymore, then break up with me. Silence. Don't you two see? Julian is winning. Now, my toxic trait is I do love drama, especially one where a relationship is crashing and burning before my very eyes. So personally, to me, this is good and entertaining. Tom awkwardly drops Jenny off back at her house without saying another word to her. While she's at home, Jenny's house phone rings. Once again, she hears nothing but whispering on the line. She hangs that sucker up and heads back to bed. She's lying awake, unable to sleep, when the book says she suddenly wants to do something ritual and purifying by herself. Now, we've all been young before, and there's one thing I could think of that a frustrated teenage girl might do by herself in bed at night that is both ritual and purifying. And so I found this odd because this is a PG book series, but no, she just chooses to go skinny dipping in her backyard pool, which is, yeah, you know, of course, the second thing that I would have thought about. While she's floating, she's thinking about how ever since she met Julian, the world just seems a bit more clear. Every detail is immediate to her, and life is beautiful and vibrant. Anyway, now she's the one telling herself that she's changed, and she's thinking about how Julian chose her even when she was as young as 5 years old. Okay, Jenny, I'm stopping you there. Just no. Jenny gets out of the pool, goes back to her room, and then gets another phone call, and she realizes that the whispering is saying something. And it sounds like vanished, but it's not, because she listens closer and realizes that the voice is saying famished, as in hungry, and it sends a shiver down her spine. The next day, during lunch at school, the Shadow Squad gathers again, and Ginny tells everybody that her and Tom might be on the brink of breaking up. Dee comforts her by putting a hand on her arm. Oh, sorry, I forgot this book was written by L.J. Smith, so let me correct myself. Dee comforts Ginny by putting her, quote, night dark hand on Ginny's arm, end quote. You know, because she can't just have a regular hand. Let it go, LJ! We get it! Audrey convinces Ginny that she should accept Brian's invitation to senior prom in order to make Tom jealous and get back together. This is a horrible idea, and it's a plot trope that I absolutely despise in media. But no, Ginny agrees with Audrey. I guess with the shady phone calls and her shadowy demonic stalker and the search for the missing game box and the search for the mystery girl wasn't enough on Ginny's hands. She just needs to add yet another contrived plot to her life. So for some reason, this stupid Brian prom side quest has been added to the narrative, and Ginny finds Brian and asks him to prom. So stupid. Later that day, Ginny is in, quote, computer applications class, and she's typing when all of a sudden, the J key on the keyboard gets stuck and the letter breaks out of her document margins all the way to the edge of the computer screen, and then her computer blue screens. But it's a familiar deep blue color, like a sexier, more Julian-like blue. That night, all of her friends are also being tormented. Michael sees a figure outside of his second-story apartment bedroom window. Audrey falls asleep at night and has a dream that a cat is licking her, but then she realizes that it's an actual rough tongue against her neck, and it snaps her out of her sleep, but nothing's there when she wakes up. That is horrific. Dee wakes up and sees someone leaning over her in the darkness. Zach thinks he sees a giant animal head hovering over him at night. So somehow they've all had sleep paralysis at the same time on the same night. If Julian really is orchestrating all of this, like, what a diva. What an entertainer. The next day, the group comes back together to discuss how a boy from their school, Gordon, was found dead nearby in the mountains, mauled by what they suspected was a bobcat. Y'all remember Gordy? Yeah, that was him. Tom, who is still separate from the group, somehow still hears about this, and he wants to do his own investigation, so he actually drives up to the mountains, trespasses on the crime scene, and finds black goo. You remember when this was about a board game? At this point in the book, days are passing quickly, and all we get are short vignettes of how these teens are slowly losing it. Tom's acting solo still. Ginny and her friends are all worn out by never-ending bad dreams and sleep paralysis. In the past few days, Ginny has found out that the black-haired girl's name is Angela. Yeah, remember the black-haired girl? Ginny found a group of children playing outside, and she asked them to go and get Angela's address. They're sending 5-year-olds on the front lines. Well, it turns out to be a good bet, because one of the kids actually finds Ginny again, like 2 days later, and gives Ginny Angela's address. How? Ginny heads to Angela's house, rings the doorbell, but nobody answers. So Ginny just fucking tries the doorknob, and it's unlocked. Breaking and entering is cool now. Roger that. Angela is there in the house, and understandably freaks out because Ginny has just entered her home uninvited and unannounced. Ginny explains that she just needs Angela to tell her where portable PC went that morning so she can find the white board game box. It takes Ginny roughly 7 sentences to convince Angela to trust her completely. Angela agrees to show Ginny the place where Slug and Mac went with the box. Slug and PC. Also, Dee shows up somehow. Angela leads Ginny and Dee to a shed out back. Apparently, Scallop and Lenovo wanted to use Angela's shed to play the game, and one night the boys approached Angela and asked her to borrow the shed, so she agreed. But then she realized that they were gone for a while, and she opened her shed to find that Sloth and Windows XP had disappeared. Ginny and Dee opened the shed, and sure enough, the paper house from the game is on the floor, and so are all of its playing pieces. But it's exploded as if something had burst out from inside of it. Ginny knows in her gut that this means Julian Shadow Man is officially back in the world and badder than ever. And worst of all, there was something else that was supposed to be in the game box, something that Ginny had put in there when she meant to throw everything away that is not there anymore. It's her golden betrothal ring, the one Julian gave her. This is gonna be good. I'm in the mood to see a messy Julian. You know he's been pissed off stewing inside of that closet for a few hours thinking about Ginny's betrayal. Things are heating up. The Shadow Squad goes into full emergency mode. Everybody, even Tom, reunites at Audrey's house to discuss business matters, and they're all huddled around the remains of the paper house. Tom mentions that he thinks these shadow beasts tormenting them all are probably the Creeper and the Lurker. Remember those guys? MVPs from episode 1. fun. So Michael suggests that they all should meet back up at Tom's place on Saturday to spend all day strategizing against Julian and his evil forces. But Audrey pipes up to tell everyone that Saturday won't work for her and Jenny because you know what? They're going to prom. Priorities, Audrey. This is life or death. You can stand to cancel prom. Tom's like, Jenny, you're going to prom with Brian. And his lip starts quivering and he gets up and just leaves. Tom, this is so insignificant. Please put the inferiority complex back inside of you. So now Jenny's angry at Audrey for even talking about prom. So Jenny calls Brian to cancel, but on the phone he tells her that he's gotten a limousine reserved and he's gotten seats at the French restaurant in town. So Audrey's like, oh yeah, just tell him that you're going and you're wearing the golden dress that you have. And Jenny's like, oh no, I can't wear that dress that I spent my own money on that's collecting dust in my closet because Tom always thought it was too sexy. So he's gonna flip if he sees me wearing that for Brian. He won't like it, nor. And then Audrey says, girl, that's the point. Firstly, bold of Audrey and Jenny to assume that Tom's even going to show up or bother following them to prom. And secondly, all of this is so stupid. It's the night of the prom. Jenny's in her room looking at her gold shimmery dress. She meets up with Brian. And he's like, you're hot. And she jumps into a limo with him. As a reader, I can't relate to this book anymore. Then they get to prom. And the theme is Midnight Masquerade. Because of fucking course it is. Jenny decides not to wear a masquerade mask because Brian tells her she's too pretty to cover her face up. Ugh. Then Brian mentions that he ordered white roses for her corsage. Wow. For her corsage. Help me. Brian talks about how he ordered white roses for her corsage, but somehow the florist gave him yellow roses that just happened to match her dress perfectly. I wonder how that mix-up happened. So far, Jenny's been having an okay night, but she's definitely not interested in Brian. Audrey's also there with her date, who, by the way, is not Michael. As in, Audrey sought out a boy who was not her boyfriend and asked him to take her to prom. Break up! Just break up with him! Audrey, Jesus! Jenny is forced to dance with Brian and she's trying to find a way to escape when this strange boy comes along to ask her to dance. He's wearing a black mask and she can't get a good look at him, but she doesn't even care. She's just casually dancing with this random dude and she realizes that they've drifted closer to the darker area of the dance floor, slightly away from everybody else. I wonder why. Jenny notices the music has gotten slower and time feels like it's melting. I wonder why. But out of sheer social anxiety, she refuses to look up at this guy she's dancing with because she's like, well, that's rude. Not gonna lie, that's something I would do and think. I would just suffer in silence until the situation ended. Yeah. Her dance partner is leading her closer to the balcony where she can see the nearby beach. Suddenly, she realizes that this guy's gripping her tighter and tighter. So Jenny looks up, and what do you know? He has white hair and an all-black tux. It's Julian! Jenny's in fucking survival mode. She's to the point of near blackout because she's convinced that he's gonna omaiwa mo shindeiru her on the spot. They're isolated from everybody else now, standing on the balcony. She's weeping, and so she rips away from his grip, and she gets a good look at him. Instantly, she's like, pause. He does look really good, though. Anyway, back to fearing for my life. The first thing he says to her is that he was the one who sent yellow roses for her corsage. Because yellow roses signify infidelity. Damn! He really got her with that! Like, on one hand, he's entitled to nothing. But, like, I can't really be that mad, can I? Like, he really served and delivered that one line. Jenny's like, okay, thanks for the notes. I am ready to die now. Go on, do it. Just get it over with. And Julian's like, alright. And he just kisses her. Which, of course, means that all of the living cells in Jenny's body reverse. And once again, she's sipping on her I love Julian juice. And she's enjoying the kiss, even though moments ago, she was just thinking about how horrible and conniving he is. And how she's planning to jump off the balcony to end it all just to get away from him. The descriptions of Jenny kissing this man are so ridiculously dramatic and concerning that I truly fear for her if they ever in her life made it past first base. She has no shame. She left all that back with Brian in the other room.
I wish I could say that was the last time. I said that last time.
So she's leaning into it, and Julian's like, don't you get it, Jenny? We're both down bad for each other. Personally, I know I'm doing a little bit too much. I am, but you keep meeting me halfway, so just let me love you. And that's enough for Jenny to get super pissed and push him away. Julian is a little aggravated, but he's having fun because he says that she's exciting when she fights him like this. No, sir. that is morally reprehensible. It's giving Rihanna and Eminem Love the Way You Lie. Julian takes her hand all of a sudden and puts the golden ring back onto her finger and tells her that there's no return policy for a magical wedding ring. And Jenny's like, oh man. She does inwardly admit to herself that ever since meeting Julian and betrothing him, she has had some wild part of herself that wants him and wants to take risks. Regardless, she still asks Julian if there's a way out for her at all. So Julian proposes another game, and if she wins, she can be free from her promise to him, but if she loses, she is cuffed for eternity. Jenny agrees to play this game just to get Julian to leave her alone. Of course, Jenny thinks it'll just be the two of them playing, but Julian's like, nah babe, don't you realize this is a sequel? You and your shadow squad who played me for a fool last time will have to play against me again. I will be hunting you down and you better not let me catch you. He's like, you know what? Let's call this game, I'm kidnapping your friends one by one. If you can find my home base before all of them disappear, then you win. But if you can't find it, I'll take all of them and trap them in the shadow world forever. But I'm taking them one by one, starting with Audrey goodbye. And then he kisses her again, aggressively and possessively this time, before he evaporates. Julian and Jenny, y'all are Mr. and Mrs. Messy. The mood swings here are ridiculous. Jenny's like, status update, accidentally got my friends into some shit. So she's panicking and she tries to find Audrey, who she sees walking on the beach below the balcony. Audrey is making out with her prom date, Eric, who I need to remind you again is not Audrey's boyfriend, Michael. So Audrey's attacked by a wraith shadow wolf who tries to bite and drag her into a giant abyss that opens up on the ground. Miraculously, Tom comes out of nowhere to save her with like an army knife or something and stabs the wolf and it retreats and Audrey's safe. Jenny sees all of this as she's running up to them and she's like, I can't explain right now, but we need to round up all the besties and get into one safe undisclosed location. So they book it out of prom and the shadow squad meets up in Michael's apartment. Jenny explains to Audrey why she was attacked on the beach by a shadow wolf and how all of them just have to play a new game. Real casual stuff. There's a new game. Instantly, Dee says that if there's a new game, that means Jenny has most definitely just seen Julian. And Tom is like, you saw who now? Jenny tells the group everything. Well, minus the intense makeout session, which was 2/3 of that scene. So I guess she pretty much just tells them about 4 sentences that Julian had said to her. The most important thing is that they know the game is all or nothing. They can either win and be done with Julian forever, or they can lose and die permanently. So no pressure. Honestly, why is Julian all or nothing with Jenny? You'd think a shadow man would be content to stay in the shadows as like a side piece for Jenny. I mean, if it really is so crucial, then during the day, Jenny can have like Tom, and during the night, Julian can slither into her room as like a sleep paralysis demon or whatever. It would be a pretty good setup, in my opinion. Jenny is not maximizing her resources here. So the whole point of the game is to find his home base before they all get stolen away. As a group, they deduce that Julian's home base can't be in the shadow world since he threatened to take them to the shadow world if she loses. Michael is eating a box of Cracker Jacks and there's a prize inside. It's an Alice in Wonderland poem. In the midst of the words she was trying to say, in the midst of her laughter and glee, she had softly and suddenly vanished away, for the snark was a boojum you see. It's a poem about a group of men hunting imaginary animals called snarks, but some of the snarks are boojums, which are actually animals that hunt you. So basically, a wolf in sheep's clothing. They think Julian has given them a clue somehow, but they can't understand it right now. Nevertheless, they all have pretty high spirits coming into this game, and they're confident they can defeat Julian. Audrey gets up, goes into the kitchen, and everybody's joking around, having a great time. They're having fun being friends again. And then they realize that Audrey hasn't come back from the kitchen and that she's not responding to them. She's fucking gone, isn't she? Because she was in the midst of laughing and gleeing, and she softly and suddenly vanished away. Everybody runs to the kitchen, and yes, Audrey has disappeared. She's been stolen. A paper doll sits on the floor in place of Audrey. Turns out the poem was a clue, but it was a clue for something that was about to happen immediately. Meanwhile, they had all thought they had a freaking buffer window, but no, Julian is on his game, pun intended. Okay, so Audrey has been Thanos snapped. Personally, I'd say now is probably a good time to employ some sort of a buddy system. Michael is crying, and Tom's grimacing, and Zach's staring, and Dee is, quote, investigating the floor like an ebony huntress, end quote. LJ, this is your last warning. They all decide to have a giant sleepover in order to keep tabs on each other and evade any more sudden kidnapping. They vow to get Audrey back from wherever Julian's keeping her. Jenny tries snuggling up to Tom, but he's like, excuse me, what's that on your finger? Is that a ring? What's that doing back up there? So both Jenny and I forgot that she had the ring back on. Ooh, Tom is so close to snapping now. She tries to recover and take the ring off, but this time it's stuck to her finger for good. She is locked in. Jenny, just let him go. At this point, he has the right to be angry at you. You've legitimately been lying to him. Next morning, they start up a roll call, and everybody is still there. After breakfast, they start making rounds to everyone's houses in order to construct this huge, convoluted lie about why they all need to be away from home for the next few days. This would not fly with my mother. If I ever went somewhere as a kid, she had to have addresses, phone numbers, social security numbers, a firstborn from every parent involved, and a live feed of my vital signs. Jenny goes with Zach to his house to get props to sell the idea that they're all going to be working on like a huge school project. So they're trying to get books and everything that looks homeworky. While she's alone with Zach, she looks around, sees the familiar dark room, the familiar picture of the cafeteria tables on the wall, and she once again starts thinking of the moment they had in the game, even though it wasn't really him. Why? I don't want to go through this anymore. Zach talks about how ever since he saw the shadow world, he's had major artist block because nothing he could ever photograph will ever feel like reality anymore. To him, that world was real, and this one is paler by comparison. Basically, he's dissociating like hell. Jenny says, quote, "You know, maybe when this is all over," end quote. But then she's interrupted by Zach's dad telling him there's absolutely no way he's allowing Zach to hang out with friends on a school night, which is realistic. Zach tells Jenny that instead of being able to sleep over with them tonight, he'll just try to meet up with the group tomorrow. Something tells me tomorrow won't come for Zach, but okay. I'm sorry, what was Jenny gonna say? That's something that's gonna plague me for the rest of my life. Jenny is playing the real forbidden game here with this weird fucking Zach thing. That night, Julian visits Jenny in her dreams, literally. She tells him that she hates him, and he's like, "Aw, is that really how you feel? Same old, what's new?" He says this weird vague thing about how the world is the world that you see, but your thoughts can be reality or something opposed to reality. So your thoughts are like the world that you think you see. The story switches perspective to Zach that night and how he can't sleep, so he goes to his garage, only to find that the creeper, the giant shadow snake, is there waiting for him, and all Zach can think about is how to get to his camera to photograph it, which mood. That morning, the gang pull up to Zach's house and make a beeline for the garage, but all they find is a paper doll of him. He's been snatched. They decide things are getting a little serious. That's 2 people down, so they skip school and start their detective work yet again. Earlier, I was complaining that Jenny had so many friends, but now I'm glad that there are like 5 or 6 of them because me and my 2 IRL besties would have lost by now. Dee suggests that they all go to see her grandmother, Abba, who gives them breakfast and is like the one adult who doesn't question their claims of the supernatural. Abba basically tells them a story about this girl going through fire and flood and snakes to save a boy she loves. And then she turns to Jenny and tells Jenny that she's a special snowflake, etc., etc. Anyway, thanks to Abba, the group has regained confidence and they return to Michael's apartment as their home base, but not before being smart and taking Audrey's car keys and moving her car over to Michael's parking lot. This is to prevent Audrey's parents from wondering why her car is still in their driveway if she's supposed to be out with friends. When they're back at Michael's apartment, they all start brainstorming about where the heck Julian's home base would be. At this point, I sound off in the comments if you think you know where the base is. I don't really know at this point because the game shop doesn't exist anymore. And then Julian gave Jenny that weird hint about the world versus the mind. I don't know. Dee and Michael have to go out to move Audrey's car for plot reasons that force them to separate from the group. And while they're gone, Jenny has a vision where the windows in the room fog up and somebody's writing the Little Miss Muffet rhyme on the glass. And then the nursery rhyme mentions a spider. And Jenny's like, "Spider? Wait, that's the brand of Audrey's car." And then in the rhyme, Miss Muffet is eating curds and whey. And Dee was eating cheese curds a moment earlier. So somebody needs to go get Dee. At this rate, we're losing like 1 person a day. And that is a pretty relentless schedule, if you ask me. Julian is not playing around. The perspective shifts, And so we see Dee and Michael, and they're in Audrey's car when a shadow wraith is suddenly in the backseat of the car just chilling. So Dee pushes Michael out of the car, and then she freaking jumps out of the moving car and tucks and rolls, leaving Audrey's car to smash into a wall in Michael's apartment's garage. Dee's sprinting for her life, trying to get away from this shadow wraith that's chasing her, and so she goes up the garage stairway. But then before we know what happens to her, we switch perspective back to Michael, Tom, and Jenny, who are now apparently fully caught up with Dee and are in hot pursuit of where Dee went. But as they reach the landing at the top of the stairs, all that waits for them is a tiny paper doll of Dee. She got. They all trudge back to the apartment in shame. They have now lost half of their group in only 3 days. Jenny's running out of time. Morale is at an all-time low. Then again, Julian isn't really giving them proper clues until the very last second anyway, so they don't really have a chance to react. And they don't have time to go around searching for Julian's home base either. They don't have time to think. They don't have time to even eat or sleep. They just have time to panic. So Michael, Tom, and Jenny spend the rest of the day silent, thinking. Everything is threatening to unravel at this point. If even one of their parents calls another one of their parents, their lies are gonna be found out immediately. Jenny's getting desperate, needless to say. Luckily, Julian gives her a visit that night in her dreams, and he has like an entire model of her neighborhood on a table, like Hunger Games architect style. Is that what they're called? I don't know. There's a tiny model of the Creeper and the Lurker, and Julian controls them by placing their models on various streets wherever he wants them to pop up, like Monopoly. Also, his eyes are described as exotic for the 5th time in the series. Good. I was actually starting to miss this. Jenny confronts him about what happened to Slug and PC, and he says that they lost their own game inside of the magical mansion. And then she asks him why he killed Gordy, and Julian just says Gordy got a little too close to something. Jenny's trying to get information out of him, but he's playing coy. He says he can give her a hint, but it won't be for free. Disgusting. I see shadowy men only want one thing. Jenny's like, okay, give me the hint first though. And he's like, okay, fine. You can find your friends behind a door in the shadows. So Jenny, being quick and smart and nifty, asks Julian if 1, she's seen the door before. He says yes. And 2, if she's been through the door before. And he says yes and no. Then he's like, okay, I'll collect my price now. And then they just kiss. These scenes are like broken records. Before she leaves her dreamscape, Julian gives her a silver rose. It's the same silver rose that he gave her when he was the Elf King in the caves, in the house. It doesn't matter, but it does because it has a slip of paper around the stem. And then she wakes up, and the rose is in her hand IRL now. So Jenny looks at this paper that's wrapped around this silver rose, and the paper's in French, and it just says, Pas de loup, ronquenu. Michael and Jenny can't read it, but it gets their gears turning, so they try to find a French to English dictionary, while Tom just sulks because he saw that Jenny got a rose from Julian. And man, baby behavior. Then again, these are teens. These are teenagers. But also, I would be a little suspicious too, because to him, there is no telling what Jenny might be doing in these dreams for her to keep getting all these free clues from Julian. So my mind would also be jumping to worst case scenarios. Michael and Jenny try, but they can't decipher the French because the words don't make any sense. But Michael knows for a fact that he's the next to be taken to whatever home base Julian has. Anyway, they're at a dead end. So Jenny takes a nap. And then when she wakes up, Michael's just chilling and Tom is huddled under his sleeping bag. Jenny realizes immediately once she wakes up that the French words don't make sense because the words don't matter. It's the pronunciation of the words that matter. Pas de loup. It's just supposed to say paddle your own canoe. What the fuck? And that means she doesn't know what it means. But obviously it has something to do with a river or water. And Jenny is celebrating how big brain she is. And she's like, oh my god, Michael, we've done it. And then she's like, Michael, why isn't Tom excited? In fact, why hasn't he moved at all? And Michael looks at her and tells her that Tom made him keep silent. And so she's like, what? She rips Tom's sleeping bag open, and it's nothing but pillows because Tom has secretly gone to drive back to the mountains to the crime scene where he trespassed before. He's apparently convinced that Julian's home base might be up there. Also, they had found Gordy's body in a creek bed, which lines up with the French clue, but it doesn't really line up with the door thing that Julian told Jenny like 2 scenes ago. So my girl Jenny's confused. She's confused, and I'm confused. We switch perspectives to Tom now, who's already at the crime scene once again, somehow. I don't know how. but he does have an entire rifle with him. I just don't know how he got it. He figures that even if Julian's base isn't up there in the woods, in the mountains, he thinks that Julian probably stores the creeper and the lurker in the mountains, and that's why Gordy died. He came across them and fucked around and found out. So instead of finding the base, Tom's mind is focused on trying to kill both of Julian's pet monsters, because then the pet monsters can't steal away his friends anymore, because they were the ones doing all the kidnapping. Also, if you remember, back when Tom fought off the thing that was trying to steal Audrey on the beach, well, he had his knife and he stabbed it, and then he saw that it bled. And Tom operates by the good old-fashioned American golden rule of, if it bleeds, I can shoot it. And if I can shoot it, I can kill it dead. So Tom sees a lurker just standing there in the middle of the woods. And he shoots it, and it actually collapses. Like, it's that easy to kill a shadow wraith wolf, apparently. So now the wolf's dead. The whole time he's hunting the wolf, though, the creeper has been slithering behind him. Don't know how he missed that. It's a giant snake. And so now Tom feels its fangs bite into his back, and he falls, but not before twisting around to shoot into the snake's mouth, killing it instantly. What in the hell? What's in this man's DNA? I wonder what Julian's thinking at this moment, like if he feels a disturbance. Like he's probably grocery shopping at like Shadow Kroger right now and he just drops his groceries, clutching his heart, gasping for breath. Tom is now lying in the creek bed, trapped under the dead snake's body, and he's like, all right, nothing we can't fix, not a situation we can't weasel our way out of, until suddenly a rush of water hits him from nowhere, and then the creek bed fills up with water. So now we're back with Ginny and Michael again, and conveniently, they just happen to be already there in the mountains, right behind Tom, like immediately behind him. And so they also hear the rushing water, and then they look, and the creek bed that's usually dried out is now borderline flooding with black water. And then Jenny and Michael spot a tiny paper boat that's carrying a tiny paper doll of Tom. Now, who made the paper boat? I just want to know. Tom's been taken, so now it's literally just Jenny and Michael left. Defeated, Jenny and Michael bring the boat back to the apartment, and they line it up next to all the other dolls of her friends who are missing. So now it's crunch time for real. Jenny has one friend left, and that's Michael. On the paper boat is written another riddle. What gets bigger the more you take away from it? Jenny already knows that the answer is a hole, and so Michael's convinced that he's a goner and that whatever will get him will be, hole related. But I don't know. Because now, thanks to Tom, both of the shadow creatures are dead. So, like, who's gonna come steal you away? Michael's on the verge of an emotional breakdown because he knows that he's gonna get taken at any point now. He starts telling Jenny that they might all still be in the old mansion in the old game, and that the world that they think they're living in now is actually an illusion, and they didn't actually escape the old game, and that real life isn't even real anymore. And Jenny's like, okay, I hear you and I see you. I'm listening, but you're insane. And then he has to go to the bathroom, and he begs Jenny to come with him because he's terrified of getting stolen away. And Jenny's like, okay, fine, I'll stand outside the door, Michael. You will be fine. It's just a bathroom. And then she hears the toilet flush, and then Michael is nowhere to be found. There's a paper doll on the toilet. He was freaking pet goldfished down the toilet. Michael, you deserved better. I'm so sorry. Also, I feel like this is cheating for real. Like, there is no reason to take 2 people in one day, Julian. I feel like that is completely violating the guidelines of the game. Now we're at the crux of our story. Jenny's been left all alone in Michael's apartment. Now she has her 5 paper doll friends lined up on the kitchen counter. She figures that now she has to double down on the detective work. Wow, Jenny, you think. Because babes, at this point, if Julian gets hurt as well, it's over. And they'll all be trapped in the shadow realm forever. So she's thinking, she's like, Julian told me it was a door in black and white. It was one I have seen before, and I could get through it, but I can't get through it at the same time. I have the answer. As soon as she has this great revelation, suddenly a piece of paper falls down into her lap. Julian, have you ever considered going paperless? Like, this is not a sustainable way to conduct your games. Anyway, the paper in her lap reads, I'm something. I'm nothing. I'm short. I'm tall. When you fall at your sport, then I stumble and fall. I have never been seen yet beneath a new moon. I thrive in the evening but vanish at noon. I am lighter than air. I weigh less than a breath. Darkness destroys me and light is my death. The answer is obviously a shadow, but just as Jenny's thinking that, all the lights in Michael's apartment go out. Jenny's like, okay, this is game on. I have to be on the move right now. So she gets up, she knows exactly where she has to go, but she has to make it there first before Julian whisks her away and ends the game. So she grabs Michael's keys, sprints to his car, while every light in his apartment building and garage are blinking out behind her. At this point, she's fully aware that Julian is toying with her, but she's still trying, okay? She's tearing down the road in her car, and also it just happens to be raining and storming. There's a stoplight up ahead, but the stoplight itself blinks out and goes dark, so Jenny's recklessly zooming through traffic. Now even the car itself is stuttering somehow, as if the darkness is causing everything to die. But Jenny freaking Tokyo drifts onto a curb and gets out and runs in her 8-inch heels. I'm sure she doesn't have 8-inch heels on. It feels more dramatic if she does. So now she's very close to her destination. We still don't know where she's going. She's running like a track star, and then she runs into Zach's backyard. Interesting. She sprints, bursts through Zach's house using their side door, which is apparently unlocked. But his house is empty. Like, Zach's parents, aka her aunt and uncle, are gone and nowhere to be found. One by one, the lights in the rooms of the house are blinking out, and she's frantically trying to run through the house, trying to get to the connected garage. She gets into the living room, but even that light goes out, so now she's in pitch black darkness, waiting for Julian to snatch her up. She's frantically feeling on the walls. She's feeling for the light switches. She's feeling for everything she possibly can. And then she runs into something warm and soft, and then she screams. Wait, is he warm? Sorry, it says warm and hard. Sorry, excuse me. My mistake. It actually says she runs into something warm and hard in the darkness. Obviously, it's Julian who grabs her and understandably asks her why she would ever think he would let her win the game. Honestly, she should know him by now. He's a sore loser. Jenny's inconsolable. She's weeping. She's near fainting. She's panicking, and he's there like, there, you put up a good fight, but you lost, that's all. Here, if you would just kindly step into this swirling vortex next to me so we can slip into the shadow realm, please. After you, milady. But Jenny ain't going without a fight. She shoves him backwards and he stumbles and falls into his own vortex. How embarrassing, babe. Then Jenny freaking leaps over the vortex, finds her way into the garage, and then grabs a flashlight. She looks over at the photograph on the wall of the cafeteria tables. It's one that was mentioned in the last book, and it was mentioned earlier in this book. Basically, the friends pulled a prank where they all stacked up cafeteria tables in their school, and that's the event that made them all friends in the first place. It was very briefly mentioned in the first book. Yeah. So now Jenny is looking at that photograph, and she is certain that the cafeteria door inside of the photograph is where Julian's home base is hidden. It's a door that Jenny had been through many times before and had seen before in real life, but here it's black and white, and she technically can go through it because it's a door, but she technically can't go through it because it's a photo of a door. Big brain, big brain! Just then, her flashlight blinks out, and she can sense that Julian is somewhere in the darkness behind her, pissed off because she pushed him. But she reaches for the door in the picture and falls through it. Jenny lands in a version of the school cafeteria where Audrey, Zach, Dee, Tom, and Michael are all very shocked to see her, but very thrilled as well. Since she came through the door, they assumed that she found the base by herself because apparently all of them had just fallen in through the ceiling. They all tell her how great she is and how happy they are to be alive, and I would hold that thought, besties, because Julian is indeed somewhere right now very upset. Plus, we still have an entire book left in the trilogy. They tell Jenny that real-world time has passed in their space, so they have actually been in that space for days. But they've been sleeping on the cafeteria tables, and somehow food gets delivered to them through the cafeteria window, so Julian's been feeding them like pets. I mean, he's not treating them horribly, at least. Either that or the Uber Eats delivery person I mentioned in the first video is just very dedicated to their service. Her friends also reveal that the creeper and the lurker never actually hurt anybody. They just scared each person into falling into a vortex. So other than that, all of her friends are unharmed. Wait, really? Because I'm pretty sure Tom was literally bitten in the back by the giant snake. So where are his wounds? There's no mention of them. Was it a fake bite in the back? I don't understand. Jenny's so proud of herself and everyone's gassing her up. She's bragging about pushing Julian into his own vortex and how she hates him and despises him, and her friends are like, yeah, you go girl, you're so sassy. But we all know that even if she successfully gets rid of Julian for good, Jenny is going to be spending every moment of her life in regret. There will probably always be a part of her that's like, okay, but what if we had just made it work? So none of this peacocking makes any sense to me. The fact that she keeps telling her friends like, Yeah, Julian, yeah, he's crazy. He's crazy evil, and I hate him. So a moment passes, and everyone's like, okay, cool, we won. Yeah. And so then they all look at their watches, and they're like, Julian should have been here about 4 minutes ago. Like, where is he? Any minute now, he'll show up. So now Jenny's afraid that Julian's up to something sneaky, but then he shows up fashionably late, and the doors to the cafeteria are open behind him with a big neon exit sign glowing over them, which made me laugh because he's just so salty. You can tell. He's such a little shit. Julian congratulates Jenny and her friends and tells them that they've won his game and that all they have to do now is just walk past him and exit through the doors. I love him so much. So everybody's staring at him and they're like, you are obviously physically standing in front of the doors. They're all like, ooh, I don't want any of that. So then he's like, no, here. And he steps aside politely and he's like, please, I insist, go on, walk past me, exit. Dee, of course, is the only one with enough balls to walk past him first. And then it says she casts an ebony glance at Julian. This is getting so bad. I can't make this up. LJ, this has to be a joke. It has to be. I can't comprehend a writer who thinks black characters are physically capable of casting ebony glances. Why would you say something like, she looked at him with black disbelief. She blacked blackly down the stairs. I'm so tired of her. Anyway, Dee walks past Julian, and as she's passing him, he quietly says, I told you not to mess with me. And as soon as he says that, Dee gets roasted. The doorways behind him were electrically charged with lightning, and she gets blasted back. And then while everybody's trying to see if Dee's, alive and stuff, Julian just disappears. Such toddler behavior from this guy, who's supposed to be like an ancient being. Also, forgot to mention this, but thanks to the sudden lightning explosion, they are all trapped inside a ring of fire, and it's very hot and very loud in the cafeteria now. Cool. Jenny is broken. One of her friends is like almost in critical condition, and their entire magical portal realm just burst into flame, and so she's shaking, but she's also very eerily calm and physically numb. Tom sees this and he's like, okay, we're taking a small mental health break. Okay, let's lay you down because you're in shock. So Jenny takes a little time to go into her mind palace, and she's like, oh wait, this fire isn't real, you guys. Like, this fire is fake. Nobody believes her, but then she convinces them that Julian wouldn't actually violate the rules of his own game. That's one of the few laws he does abide by. So if he made them all think they were trapped, it would be just as good without actually trapping them. Plus, Jenny finally acknowledges that Julian does not want to hurt her, and he probably would never hurt her. And so she uses the knowledge of her own plot armor to convince her friends that this fire has to be fake or virtual or something. And then Dee, on the floor, pipes up and she's like, I do actually have real 3rd-degree burns on my body from walking through that door. And Jenny's like, no, it's all in your head. You got hurt because you believed you could get hurt, Dee. You let it happen. I probably would have blocked Jenny on all platforms for that level of gaslighting. Jenny's friends all agree that there may be some iota of truth in what she's saying, but none of them are about to walk through fire. So Jenny's like, I ain't saying it ain't gonna hurt, but it ain't gonna kill us. There's only one way to find out, and I'll do it by myself. Then Tom and Zach, out of nowhere, are like, no, Jenny, don't walk into a raging fire, you're too sexy. So then Tom steps up, holds Jenny's hand, and he volunteers to walk with her through the fire. God's sake. Jenny suddenly remembers the words of Dee's grandmother, who told her that one story about the girl walking through flames to save the boy she loved, or whatever the frick. So her and Tom step into the fire to try and walk out of the portal. Now, the description of Jenny walking through the fire is horrific. Jenny's skin burnt off. That's what it felt like, as if it were flaying off in strips, searing crisp and black until it cracked open, charring, frying like bacon. I thought I could make it through that passage without laughing. Anyway, that's disgusting. Basically, girl's in an air fryer and she's crisping like fried chicken. Jenny's almost about to back out when Tom pulls her forward because they have to get through together. This annoys the hell out of me, because in this scene, the only thing Jenny can think of as she's virtually boiling to death is that she has to make her way through the fire for Tom, and that's what pushes her to move forward. For goodness sakes, Jenny, don't just decide to live in this moment because of the one boy that you're holding the hand of. How about make it for your mother and father who love you dearly? Or how about make it for your little brother Joey? Or you want to see your friends on the other side again? Or you want to listen to that new album or feel the sun on your face again? Like, how about you make it for your own life? Anyway, lo and behold, they walk until they fall out of the picture and onto the cold floor of Zach's garage. And they're both perfectly fine. It would have been hilarious though if she was perfectly fine and she looked over and Tom was just a burnt piece of prime rib on the floor. I almost wish that that's what would have happened. But no, they're both unharmed, and Tom admits that he didn't believe her at all about the whole fire thing. Like, he actually fully thought he was going to die, but he at least wanted to die with her. Hearing that, Jenny's like, okay, maybe I do want to lock this man down. Like, he's dedicated and kind, and he's devoted to me. You know what? No more Julian. Definitely no more Julian. I'm over him. Then Jenny has this moment where she has to, like, list out the ways that her character has changed over the book in, like, a very overt fashion. Also, conveniently, her ring has been burned away, although I can't tell if the fire did that or if Julian just saw her and Tom walking through the fire and Julian was like, for goodness sakes, give me my freaking 24 karat back. Jenny and Tom, after a while, realized that nobody has followed them out, so none of her friends believed her and none of them are going to try to walk through this fire for her. Now they see that the picture is actually starting to smolder around the edges, as in the fire inside of the portal is physically affecting the picture outside in the real world. And if the rest of them don't leave soon, the entire picture is going to burn up. So Jenny and Tom actually go back into the fire to prove that they're alive, and their friends are like, that's witchcraft. But all of them hold hands and start to walk out anyway because I guess they're all firm believers now. Everyone's walking out of the fire together, and then freaking Zach, of all people, trips and falls in the fire. And then everyone just kind of moves on without him and just stumbles out of the photograph. Jenny realizes that Zach fell, and Tom's like, no, stay here. I'll go back in and get him. So two of the most important people in Jenny's lives are both going to be inside of a burning photograph with limited amounts of time to escape. And we have another book left in the series. I wonder if something's gonna happen. But you know what? That's none of my business. Oh wait, I was right. As soon as Tom enters the photo, it burns all the way up into a charred black square, leaving him and Zach trapped in the nightmare portal forever. Jenny is fucking gobsmacked, alright? She's absolutely flabbergasted that this could even happen. Obviously, Julian is definitely using them to put a new game together because he's such a sore loser and he's realized that he's lost. In fact, it's my personal headcanon that while they were all in the fire, Julian probably like ran up behind Zach and purposely tripped him. Like, it's just a funny image for me to think of. Everyone sees Jenny crying and screaming and wailing, and so everybody else starts crying and screaming and wailing because that's it. The two boys are dead. At least in their eyes. Or not. Suddenly, the burnt photograph starts glowing. Jenny picks it up and she looks, and there are cursive letters forming on the surface. Your friends are with me in the shadow world. If you want them, come on. Hold on, I can make it through this. Your friends are with me in the shadow world. If you want them, come on a treasure hunt. But remember, if you lose, there's the devil to pay. Wow, I slayed that. I really slayed and served. Julian, now this is just childish. You could reasonably argue that Jenny did kind of cheat her way out of the first game, but only because Julian broke his promise to let them go through the portal in the first place. And now, Jenny, okay, well, she did kind of do him dirty by tossing him into a black abyss, but he barely gave her enough resources to win this game in the first place. So I don't really feel like Jenny's been cheating or anything. I feel like she honestly won this game fair and square, and now he's being a blatant piss baby about it. Jenny's ready to go on a rampage, okay? She doesn't even blink after she reads this message. She's just like, okay. All right, I think I am indeed ready to tear this man a new one. This is indeed the last straw. You want to play, Julian? Let's play. And that's the second book of the Forbidden Game series done. I don't know, the plot here was alright to me, but overall it was very choppy because of all the perspective switching. There was maybe too much going on with the random inclusion of Angela, who we didn't really need, and the random kids that Jenny had to befriend to get and Angela's address, and the random emphasis on slug and PC for no reason, and the random psychic. Remember the random psychic? I feel like there was nothing really cohesive about the events of the story. And keep in mind, I cut out a lot of stuff in this book. Like there was this thing about the kids playing goats and tigers, which is like an ancient Tibetan game. And that ties into Julian's game because he at one point mentioned to Jenny, we're playing goats and tigers. And that ties into the last book where the first time Jenny met Julian, one of the games he had offered her was the ancient game of goats and tigers. These are just things that I don't feel like I need to repeat because they never pop up in the series in like a significant way. And some things are still ambiguous in the story. Like, did Tom even need to kill the creeper and the lurker if Michael was still stolen via toilet hole? I think that was the wildest sentence I've ever said in my life. The riddles and clues were cute. I did like those because often LJ would set up a scene with seemingly innocent details and then use those details later on in a clue. As you can probably guess, this isn't my favorite book of the series, but don't let that opinion sway you. Remember that this is a virtual book club we have going on, so let me know how you feel in the comments. Also leave a like if you want. We will revisit The Forbidden Game in our third and final video. It's called The Kill, so stay tuned and I don't know, subscribe if you aren't already. Anyway, yeah, I'm pretty excited for this next one, you guys. I mean, it seems like a... Oh, okay, sorry, I'm getting a phone call, hold on. That's kind of unprofessional. Hello? Sorry, could you repeat that? You're you're cutting out a little bit. I don't know if it's you or if it's me. Yeah, for sure. Okay, yeah, thanks, bye. Okay, guys, I gotta go. Run from something really quickly. Getting some strange whispering on the line. I don't know what that's about. So I think I'll see you guys later. Goodbye!